I realized that there wasn't really a seamless, easy way to donate in Hong Kong. What we do is we develop technology products for donation and fundraising purposes, specifically for Hong Kong. We want to basically make it easier to donate. Our emphasis has really been to reduce transaction costs as close to zero as possible. We're aiming to be a kind of one-stop shop for charitable engagement. Luck has played a pretty big role in getting us to where we are now. We wanted to enable all enterprises in Hong Kong to be able to access these enterprise-level donation activities and getting their workforce involved. And that took just under 2 years to be able to secure. Had we not taken that risk, the IRD would certainly not have given us that tax deductible or that Section 88 tax exemption.
We had in the past cases where actually consultants brought it up, hey, we need to do more in CSR. And many consultants who said, hey, instead of you buying me now a gift, can I basically donate it?
When companies align themselves with what their employees care about, they can be up to 4 times more engaged with their work. With one CSR person, you can actually multiply that impact even further. Doing it with a partner like Synpulse is the right way to do it.
Welcome to the Pulse Check podcast. Alasdair, Pocock, great to have you on board. Founder of Socially Responsible, which is a main topic, of course, today. But besides that, also head of business development at Disclaim, which, as far as I understand, your main job. You can maybe quickly elaborate. So great to have you on board. Before we go into Socially Responsible and into Disclaim and your background, you know, I want to usually start with an icebreaker on, is there something unique about you that makes you you?
Sure. So, well, thank you very much for having me, Salman. Very kind of you. I think just in terms of what makes me me, growing up with pretty severe dyslexia has had a pretty big outcome on where I've sort of gone in my life and the kind of direction that I've taken. Maybe to elaborate a little bit more on that, what does it mean to be dyslexic? I think is one question that most people are probably having in front of their mind. I recall that there was part of the diagnosis. There was a test that they give you, and it's basically an intelligence quotient test that they use, and it's broken down into various buckets. And so the way that they sort of determine whether you have dyslexia is the delta between one of the higher aspects of your intelligence quotient and then some of the lowest. So for me, my processing speed was exceptionally bad. I think if you put me in a room with 100 people, in an average room, I think there's only maybe 2 people in that room that have a lower processing speed than I.
Wow.
So that does somewhat dictate what I can and can't do. But I do have sort of other strengths that allow me to maybe take a different kind of direction in life. And so as part of that, sort of visual problem solving or connecting the dots is something that I'm quite strong at. So I was never very good at mathematics. I'm still functionally innumerate, if you will. Reading and writing, very, very much a struggle for me as well. But when it comes to sort of big ideas or concepts, that's something that I connect really well with. So hence why I ended up going down the track of economics. I did end up having to do a little bit of maths as part of that, but that was definitely not my sort of strong suit, if you will. But that's more or less the sort of key thing that's dictated the track of my life thus far.
Thank you so much for sharing and being completely transparent and open, and explains also a bit, because I mean we work together now since I think around 2 years, and I never really realized it, but the fact that you said you're very good at connecting and bringing a big bold bigger picture view, and we will talk about socially responsible, which is also a very bold, big vision. And I think you really bring a lot of qualities when it comes to connecting and also the social aspect. So very interested to hear more on that.
Sure.
Before we go there, in terms of taste, and just maybe quickly elaborating how you were able to do the 2 things in parallel, because that's what our guests always ask for when we have entrepreneurs in the podcast, how they can strike a balance. And in many cases, people do this maybe also besides their main job, 9-to-5 job. maybe you can also quickly touch on how this is possible.
Sure. So I'm head of business development for Destin Inc. We do ultra-fast charging lithium-ion battery technologies for a range of different sort of products. So battery energy storage units, but then also in particular electric vehicles as well. So part of my role there, as head of business development, we're a relatively small firm. We have a relatively small production scale. We're more in the kind of niche applications, so particularly around racing vehicles, and then also sort of small format battery packs. Of course, when you get to higher charge and discharge rates, you need more power into the battery packs, and so smaller battery packs are typically what we focus on. But my role covers everything from sort of marketing strategy to customer outreach. I've been in the company for about 7 years now. I've managed to become reasonably good at my job, so I'm able to balance things relatively well. But of course, there's only 24 hours in the day. I think weekends is something that I leverage quite well to do a little bit of work on the side. But I think when it comes to most startups, I think there's been a typical culture towards move fast and break things. That's really not been the name of the game for socially responsible. And so we've had the luxury of time, and that's partly to do with the fact that the charity sector here in Hong Kong is very highly regulated. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. And so as part of that, we may have even wanted to move a bit faster than we have. Obviously, having a little less time to allocate than somebody that's maybe a full-time founder, it's actually been quite helpful in terms of being able to balance my full-time role with the development of socially responsible. I think there's also the other angle there, which is if you have a full-time job, it helps remove some of that financial pressure as well, which is helpful because I've worked in. I had another startup, some years ago, where those financial pressures end up in somewhat challenging relationship breakdowns and a lot of pressure on people to perform. So coming back to my slow processing speed, I like to take my time with things. And so that's been the case for socially responsible. I'm very grateful that my full-time job at Destin has allowed me to have a bit more flexibility.
So can you summarize in just one or two sentences what socially responsible stands for? And the name, of course, gives already a bit of a view, but still very quickly, what is it, and why did you decide then to basically found this company?
Sure. So ultimately what we do is we develop technology products for donation and fundraising purposes, specifically for Hong Kong. So the idea is that, for our key product, if you will, is an enterprise software. The idea is that you onboard your workforce and they can conduct various sort of charitable engagement initiatives via this product. So this is things like donating across various different charities. Typically, it would be sponsored to a degree by the enterprise itself. Employees can use either FPS or Visa to make payments to these charities. You can also vote for your favorite charities across of course, as I said, a number of different charities, and then a bucket of cash can be allocated across them on a sort of democratic basis. And then we also have fundraisers as well in there as well. So if maybe there's some kind of cultural holiday, or maybe somebody is doing a marathon, I'm aware that you like to run, for example, Salman.
Once in a while.
Yeah, once in a while, a light jog, as I understand. That's the sort of thing that you can run within your company using our software. And I think very importantly, just a couple of weeks ago, we for our charity, so we have a sister charity that licenses for free the technology product. Basically, we now have the tax exemption. So we are now able to issue tax deductible receipts for users and then also for those enterprises as well. So we're aiming to be a kind of one-stop shop for charitable engagement. On the reason side, it was a number of years ago, I realized that there wasn't really a sort of seamless and easy way to donate in Hong Kong. I think a lot of people, they engage with charities, either it'll be through a flag day, somebody maybe shaking a little coin box at them on the MTR. Maybe it's a once a year donation to a single charity. And then also for the enterprises, I think typically the model is that charities will be invited to some kind of pitch day where maybe 5 or 6 people in in the organization on some kind of charities board will determine which charity they want to sponsor for a period of a year, maybe 2 years, 3 years. And we want to address that in a sense where we want to make it a more sort of grassroots movement in these enterprises. We want to get more people engaged with charitable donation across different companies. We want to be able to reduce some of those transaction costs associated with donations, because of course managing all of your tax deductible receipts, I think that could be quite challenging for people, especially when you get your tax form from the IRD and things like this as well. So we want to basically make it so that it's easier to donate. We also want to introduce people to more various charities, a greater diversity of charities than they might ordinarily have access to or be aware of. There are great charities here in Hong Kong doing fantastic work on the ground that don't have huge marketing budgets, and so we want to provide a place for them to market themselves or connect with prospective donors.
Great vision to have. And when you came to me and explained this about 2 years ago, I was immediately also bought into the story, as I missed kind of a platform like this, where also I don't want to just give someone on the street randomly some cash where I don't know actually, is it really then also deployed in the charity they're referring to. So having a platform with all the process managed, of course, is great. And you alluded to also some of the elements of making it really a seamless journey. And as we have a lot of guests from the financial services industry, I'm very keen to touch on this of having a seamless experience, great user experience on an app, and then also, of course, web, with also the capabilities in terms of payments and credit cards. So what are some of the innovations around those areas that have been embedded into the platform? Sure.
Well, quickly touching on your first point there, I think, had you not been able to support us, I'm not sure this project would have actually gotten off the ground. Of course, you were very generous in terms of the price that you quoted us for this work, and we were then able to squirrel together the money to put that together. So very grateful to you, Salomon, for supporting us on that one. And then, of course, we managed to poach a member of your team to build the enterprise software as well. So it ended up being a very cost-effective engagement for us. Sort of coming to the user experience side of things, I think it's worth my pointing out that these kind of applications, these kinds of enterprise software do exist in other countries. So in the US, for example, and I think also Western Europe, there's a bit of a behemoth in Benevity. They're already very well established. I think their most recent valuation, I understand they're still private, is around $1 billion US. So it's something that's been very well established in the West. Of course, in Hong Kong, given the sort of specificities around donation here and some of the regulations therein, it's not something that's been able to catch on here. So this is what we set out to build. Obviously, you might say that Jack Ma, for example, isn't the most innovative, but I think taking a working model into a new context also sort of plays into innovation. Not saying that we're necessarily innovative, but in any case, shouldn't be comparing myself with Jack Ma, I'm sure. But in any case, in terms of the sort of user experience, what we've endeavored to do is to make it as easy as possible to bring in your employees into this kind of platform. So we have a single sign-on capability. So Microsoft, Google, for those companies that use those email providers. We also have it so that it's basically on the sort of typical software as a service dashboard, relatively straightforward to utilize, relatively straightforward to sort of select and look into various charities. We have all of these different charities with their financial records on there, basically a short blurb. You can very easily navigate through the system to be able to sort of find the different charities you're looking for, different causes. We also have UN SDGs on there as well. So you can basically select your cause or things that you care about, and you can sort of have a look into those charities that serve those purposes. From the payment side, we're very lucky here in Hong Kong. We have the faster payment system, which is, actually at the start when we kick things off, we only really would be able to work with the credit card systems. That's because they ping the merchant on the back end. That wasn't the case when we kicked things off, but that is an innovation in the FPS system approach where we're now able to get that kind of immediate feedback when somebody has executed on a payment. And the key benefit for that as well is that we don't need to pay as much in terms of transaction costs. And of course, when it comes to charity, and this is maybe one of the reasons why you don't want to, or one might not necessarily want to sign up for a charity with somebody with a clipboard on the street, is that there is quite substantial transaction costs when it comes to donating to charities, and charities pay a lot of money for each dollar that they sort of earn back as well. So it could be through galas, it could be through paying people on the street to sign you up. Our emphasis has really been to reduce transaction costs to or as close to zero as possible. We work with Stripe on the credit card side of things. They have their own sort of charity rate that they apply. I think it's around half of what they would typically charge for some of these transactions. And so having access to these different systems is really helpful for us, because if we didn't have that, it would really impact our sales pitch to your average donor or to the enterprises that we're looking to work with, because we are aligned with everybody else in the sense that we want every penny that can go to the charity to go to that charity. We don't charge anything on those donations. We don't charge anything on the fundraising side. Our model is more geared towards a per seat basis. So, of course, there needs to be some kind of value-added benefit there, and that's where we charge for the data side. But I'm sure we'll get to that as well later on in the discussion. But yeah, I mean, we're very lucky in Hong Kong to have these kinds of faster payment systems, and then a very well-developed sort of credit card administration function as well. So had those things not been available, of course, we wouldn't be able to do it.
And I think still not to underestimate this mobile-first also approach, I think helped too, which is also a bit of what the virtual banks then achieved in Hong Kong, which is only a reality since a few years and not since a decade. And I think that is something that I also admired and was really supporting, as going mobile first, making it simple, and really also keeping the costs low. I think that's it's great innovation. So besides it's charity, it's also being innovative. That's really great. Coming back to the entrepreneurial side of launching that startup and kind of the challenges we all face with our business. And again, it's not your primary job. You are still doing a 9-to-5 job besides that. So what are some of your biggest challenges you face?
Well, I think the biggest challenge was getting it from an idea into something real. Of course, you touched on the app that we built with Synpulse. Ultimately, we, finding some financing, finding some fundraising, investors, to put their money behind us, I think was the initial challenge. I utilized Figma to do some very rudimentary screens that allowed us to come to you with that kind of idea, but then also bringing together that money for a proof of concept where there's no real clear route to profitability or revenue, and we were able to find some investors that were quite supportive of doing something special in Hong Kong and doing something for Hong Kong, and focused more on the social value rather than the monetary value. So very grateful to have had access to those investors. In terms of the broader challenges of setting things up, I mean, one of the challenges with an app, going forward with an app to begin with, is that I think there's a few too many apps out there at the moment. I think people typically only engage with a few apps on their phone. So that required us to maybe conduct a bit of a pivot in terms of our business model, how we would get to revenue, how we would be able to support such a model into the medium and long term. So we then pivoted to this idea of software as a service and providing sort of value add for enterprises, because I think if we wanted to get our application into as many hands as possible, it would be a very expensive marketing exercise. we would need to have, we'd need to reach a kind of critical mass of users. And so we wanted to maybe pivot towards a B2B model, which would also be a little bit easier for Lucas, my co-founder, and I to address, because of course you're dealing with less customers, bigger customers, of course, with a longer sales cycle. The other sort of key challenge I would say that we faced was this tax deductible receipts. It's a keystone of our model. We wanted to be able to be a one-stop shop for enterprises. You have some enterprises that have their own charity that they operate on the side, but we wanted to enable all enterprises in Hong Kong to be able to access these kind of enterprise-level donation activities and getting their workforce involved. And so that was really critical for us. And that took just under 2 years to be able to secure, and very grateful that we were able to develop the software up front. Had we not taken that leap, had we not taken that risk, the IRD would certainly not have given us that tax deductible or that Section 88 tax exemption. They came back to us with about 40 or 50 questions, basically around how give us each and every screen of the application. We'd like to see how the enterprise software works. What does the back end look like? How do you make sure that all of the money sort of raised into the charity is kept in the charity and kept in Hong Kong? All of these different things. So when you're crossing that bridge from typical entrepreneurship into a charity space, it adds another layer of complexity as well. So hence why it's been 2 years since we launched the app, but we've not really been able to kick things off in earnest until now.
And brings me, of course, to the follow-up question of, if you would have known that it's such a long journey to get where you are now, would you do it again?
It depends on what day you ask me. I'm in a pretty good mood today, Salman, so I'll say yes. But having not come from the charity space, I think it was one of those things where Lucas and I were going into it blind, and I think that can actually be quite helpful in certain ways, because had we known the scope of what we would have to do and the hoops that we would have to jump through, maybe we would have given up a little bit earlier, knowing that there was such a long road ahead. We always thought that, in a couple of months, we're going to get that Section 88, it's a couple of months later. But I think we've been very lucky, and I think it's more of a function of serendipity, meeting the right people at the right time, meeting the right investors, meeting the right platform developers. All of these different things have kind of come together, and I think had we ventured out on this journey at any other time, it probably wouldn't have worked. So I think luck has played a pretty big role in getting us to where we are now. So if you were to ask me if I would start from afresh in 2025, the answer would probably be no. I think we started it at the right time, and we got moving at the right time, and we're able to now launch things. So we did the right thing at the right time, and to maybe go back, maybe I would do it again. But if I was to start now, I think I'd probably give up.
It's for sure a very rich experience learning for you, and on top of that, it's such a good cause. So that's why I'm really happy that you took that journey on, and that you came so far. And that brings us probably to the last conversation topic on where do you go next in terms of course, making this impact now to businesses, and Synpulse is one of them. We will partner together and also start to test out the kind of the corporate version of the application. So can you maybe go into that donation fundraising platform that amplifies CSR activities for corporates, especially as we have a lot of banks and insurance companies that we work with, and hopefully they're listening and may consider, because it's such an important topic where with not that much of an effort you can really bring a lot of money in good causes, and without having to spend for all the payment, the transaction, as much as you said and elaborated on before.
So there's some research out from McKinsey a couple of years ago. Effectively, they were saying that when companies align themselves with what their employees care about, they can be up to 4 times more engaged with their work. And so as part of that, we want to be able to take those same capacities, those same resources that are available to those banks and be able to sort of multiply the impact or their capacity to kind of create value for shareholders in a way, right, as well. So that's, I think, one thing that's really important for us is that, with one CSR person, you can actually multiply that impact even further. I think going back to our kind of next steps, of course, we've built the platform. It's functioning. We've already introduced the demo to you. We now want to move to a sort of pilot project basis. So that's one of the things that we're looking forward to doing with Synpulse, onboarding maybe 30, 40 employees, testing out some of those donations on the back end, seeing how we can improve our user experience. We're talking to another few companies in Hong Kong. Typically, we've had greater interest from organizations that are more geared towards the fast-moving consumer goods side of things, and I think in particular that's an industry that's already used to sort of ESG and tracking their supply chains, and so these are areas where it's a little bit more of a bolt-on rather than a start from scratch. When it comes to the insurance industry and banks, I understand that the sales cycle is going to be a little bit longer and the needs are going to be a little bit different. Some of the banks that we've talked to already, they've highlighted that not only their sort of banked client data is something that obviously is very important to them, but also their worker or employee data. And so one thing we're looking at building is a kind of off-premises function or a version of the platform that we can deploy, and they can look after that data themselves, and then we can do basically the donation on the back end. So all of that engagement can go on the platform, and then we get that data out, and we, on an aggregated basis, allocate those funds. So that's an approach that we can deploy to help make those customers a little bit more comfortable, those prospective customers a bit more comfortable. So first it goes pilots. We cut our teeth. We get things moving that way. Learn some lessons in a relatively low stakes environment. Of course, you don't get more than one or maybe two chances in one of these big banks to get things moving because people's time is extremely valuable, and then also there's all these sort of security aspects to it as well. So first and foremost, it's making sure we do things properly, and doing it with a partner like Synpulse is the right way to do it, of course, because of all of your technical capacities as well. Makes it very helpful for us too.
Yeah, I mean, one is, of course, the Synpulse 8, the engineering front, where, of course, we worked with you. But on the other hand, we are also a global consultancy, and we had in the past cases where actually consultants brought it up on, hey, we need to do more in CSR. And for example, we have Christmas presents at the end of the year, or we have the, of course, red pockets at Chinese New Year. Mm-hmm. And there's many consultants who said, hey, instead of you buy me now a gift, can I basically donate it? And I would love to then look into this use case immediately to see how can we do that over the platform, where it's then also where the consultant can decide on which charity this goes to. So really good use cases, I'm sure, not only we see, but many other corporates see. And therefore really supporting, of course, this platform, and really hope this is becoming a success. Not only because we were involved, but I really feel this is a great story and a great cause. As we are almost on time towards the end, I think you shared, of course, a lot on the history as well as also the outlook. But anything else you want to share?
Oh, well, to be honest, it's more towards how grateful we are for all the support that Synpulse has afforded us over the years. And
thank you.
Had we not worked with you on the POC for the app, we never would have met a very capable and kind member of your team to come on board and help us with the enterprise software. So thank you very much for allowing us to poach one of your very capable employees for that reason. Of course, we're ready to deploy. We're ready to scale up. We have everything in place at the moment. We're actually going to be doing a fundraise at some point. Well, not in the typical charity sense, but into the technology enterprise to basically help with our scale up. So targeting that towards the end of the year. And then hopefully we get some of these key keystone clients in the door, and then we can scale up for Hong Kong. Beyond Hong Kong, we're also looking at the likes of Singapore, for example. But first and foremost, we want to address the needs of Hong Kong, and we want to get things moving here first, and really get people donating and get people fundraising, and that's the idea.
Thank you so much, Alasdair. I mean, normally we don't promote the company as aggressive as we do today, but I think it's fair because of it's for charity, it's for a good cause, and that's exactly why I wanted to have this also a bit as a focus. Besides, of course, your experience sharing as a young entrepreneur, similar to myself, on going through a stressful life of building a startup, plus also, of course, the financial services aspect in terms of technology, user experience. So we talked about all those areas, while, of course, also reminding everyone that we can do more when it comes to CSR, including myself. So, of course, you find us, Synpulse 8, with the Pulse Check podcast on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Spotify, Apple Podcast, and so on. We find you where most?
Well, soresponsible.org. So that's our website, and then you can also find us on LinkedIn as well. So,
and the app you find on
the App Store, of course. Yes,
exactly. So thank you once again, Alasdair, for coming on board, and all the best, of course, on the next steps.
Thank you so much, Solomon.